Do I need to freak out about this? That phone call. Perhaps, perhaps not. What is interesting is that I have been studying this book, which we covered yesterday. Obstacle is the way. Obstacle is the way. And chapter 3, control your emotions. Control your emotions. It gives a very interesting analogy. And it discussed the initial astronauts into space, and that NASA had them go through hundreds of times all the way through the day of the takeoff. What they had for breakfast, where they would walk, where they would put their clothes on, how they would ascend up the rocket, how they would enter into the rocket, how they would put on their seatbelts, over and over and over, going through this training experience so that they could overcome their innate nerves and their innate fears and their innate emotions. Why did they do this? Because they were about to enter into an environment where panic equaled death. They panic up there and respond to their emotions instead of responding to their training, and they die. Now, that doesn't often happen down here. And what I want you to appreciate is that our world is no longer the one that largely our emotions were designed for. The chances of the saber-toothed tiger or the woolly mammoth or a lion coming after me when my physical body is in danger is pretty slim. We have largely eliminated those dangers. Certainly here in Australia, we have done an exceptionally good job of legislating and making rules, so much so that it feels like it's a very controlled, tight little experience. But the emotions are still there. The emotions still happen. And it's not so much a case of eliminating the emotions, but the ability to take that emotion and do something different with it than what it was designed for. You see, the design is that the immediate threat is triggering the emotion and I should do something about that immediately. But in this modern world, the vast majority of threats are not real. And instead of responding immediately from a state of panic, I actually need to do some work around why my emotions are being triggered and actually looking at what's going on, asking myself questions, giving the answers, going through and working out, well, what's actually triggering this emotion of anger or fear or happiness or sadness? What is the trigger there and what's underneath that? And within this book, The Obstacle is the Way, it suggested that this was a master skill, that my ability to interact with the obstacles that I face in my life comes down to my ability to steady my emotions, manage my emotions. There was a wonderful line. It said, not to not feel, but rather to domesticate my emotions. And this is a very powerful skill, not just for the astronauts, but for all of us in life. We live in a highly emotionally charged world now. We're exposed to many, many, many different influences. And those can induce powerful emotions. But the ability of the professional is to be able to feel the emotion and then still act in a way that gets a solution instead of responding to the emotion with panic or with fear or out of a state of, I just need to do something. The masterful human being is able to manage their emotions, have a look at the situation and extract out both a lesson, hey, what's going on, and an action for what needs to change. And this is a highly useful skill. Otherwise, I will be destined to go through the same situation over and over, triggering the same emotions. And the book actually spoke of a person who gives into their emotions as an indulgence of the lesser self. And that here on earth, certainly in our current conditions in life, that indulgence tends not to have any serious consequences, at least not in the short term. And so we can get away with it. But the suggestion for the astronauts, they must be able to manage their emotions. Otherwise, they die. The suggestion for us as doctors, we must be able to manage our emotions. Otherwise, there will be significant difficulties. I was consulting this morning, and that result came back. The person's emotional state was palpable. They were like, well, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, well, I'm just going to breathe here and allow the situation to reveal itself. You see, I am not that patient. I can't fix some of the problems that they had. They had severe arthritis in the left knee, laterally. They had severe arthritis in the hip, but they didn't want the surgery. And so we talked through the situation of this is what can be done. This is your best options. This is what you should do. But if I had bought into the fear and the emotional response to the initial result of the patient, then I lose my head. And I'm no longer able to help them and guide them through as a professional. Give them the facts. Give them the situation. I'm on my lunch break. They're clearly chasing me. I'll go and handle that in a little bit. Go and see what's going on with the nurses. But I want you to consider, where are you with your emotional control? Have you mastered your emotions? Are you able to take the situation that triggered the emotion and work through an experience to extract out what's going on and fix it? Even this morning, I left the air conditioning on, unfortunately. Mistake. And they're like, can you not do that? And I'm like, okay, this has happened before. This has happened once before, potentially twice. Not sure. Definitely happened once before. And I'm like, okay, what I want you to do is put a sign above the light switch that says aircon, question mark, air conditioner. So that as I click off the lights, I think about the air conditioner. Is it turned off? And it's a reminder at the point of decision, as I turn off the lights to leave, reminder, have I dealt with the air conditioner? And you see, the temptation was to just think about it and go, okay, next time I'll remember. But that was my solution for last time. And it clearly led to me forgetting about turning off the aircon again. I'm like, okay, we've got to change something. And they were skeptical. They're like, you know that this will decrease your awareness until it's almost like it's not there. I'm like, I don't care. I still want it there as a reminder that when I turn off the light switch, I've got to check the aircon and make sure it's turned off as well. And if that doesn't work, then I've got some other problem. How else am I going to solve this air conditioning problem? But the initial emotional response was one of fear. It was one of like, oh my goodness, am I going to get in trouble for this? Am I going to get kicked out? But once I was able to manage that and go, okay, just breathe through that, breathe through that. Okay, what's the situation? Aircon got left on. Am I willing to own that? Yes, I left it on. That helps. I left it on, taking ownership for the situation, and then progressing through and going, okay, I'd love to tell myself that I'm not going to forget it again, but it already happened that way, so something else needs to be done. Text, hey, can you put a reminder above the light switch, aircon? Outside of that, then we're going to need whoever's last out to loop the building or to even flick the switch that controls the master control for all of the aircon. All of these solutions could be done. What's the closing up experience for the practice? But if I lose my head at that initial text message and I'm unable to manage my emotions and instead I freak out, then I could have taken a situation that got resolved very easily into something that was much bigger. And people start responding to my freak out with a freak out of their own. And suddenly the emotional energy of the room goes through the roof. So this is a powerful skill set. So the question for you is, how do you currently deal with your emotions? If something makes you angry, how do you deal with that? If something makes you fearful, if something makes you sad, if something makes you happy, how do you leverage that recognition that you have been triggered? And what do you do with it? Have a think about it. What I do, bring my awareness to the emotion, and then I have a formal structure to go through of questions to run through. What's the situation? What am I feeling? What needs to be done? What's the solution? What's the lesson? What am I committed to doing? Otherwise, if I don't, then I am at the mercy of my lesser self. This is an important skill set for all of us as doctors to have. That's all I got. I'm going to go check out this nurse situation, find out what's going on. I'm going to go have some lunch after that. I hope you're having an awesome day. If you want some help with this, head over to GraduateMedicine.com for the Clinical Certainty Program, and I look forward to seeing you on another episode very soon.